trailer preview, huh? But he ain't coming back, so don't be waiting for that sequel. Your bones is getting broken like that ex that made you single. I reverse your hype entirely and see you in my review. I don't care about if this feed you, watch me play.
Okay, so here we have the block, the turbo, and the crank in the back of the 4Runner. And I also brought 2 out of the 6 pistons, so the machine shop guy can look at the bearings and give me a better judgment of what I should do to the crank itself, if I should undercut it or just polish and it's good to go. So if you remember from my last video, I started to take apart the 1.5J and found what was wrong and why I was getting blow by, thinking it was the piston rings. But I kind of wanted to point something out and see what you guys think as well. So 4 out of the 6 pistons are damaged. They're all damaged in what appears to be the same spot. So this arrow indicates forward. It's broken over here. All right. Let me see. Let me flip it over for the arrow. Arrow indicates forward. Broken over here. Arrow indicates forward. Broken over here. Arrow indicates forward. Broken over here. Another thing I noticed on this assembly, when I pulled the crank out, these thrust washers fell out, and you can see how worn they are. So the thrust washers were worn, and 4 out of the 6 pistons are cracked, but no damage was really done to the cylinder walls. So when I spoke to the machine shop, they told me that hopefully 20 thousandths will be able to clean off the wear on the cylinder walls, and should be good meat all around, so I can get honed, put new rings and all that stuff. So with that said, I need to buy new pistons for sure now. I'm gonna use these same rods. These same rods are probably good for 700 torque, I believe it is. These are the stock 2JZ GTE. So basically what I'm gonna do is just take the rings out, the little circlips that go in here, remove the pins, keep the rods. The pistons, I'm gonna use them as paperweights for work or something, just give them out. If you guys want one, just send me a message or something, although it's trash. So I have the 1J head masked off, so I don't get any aluminum shavings into the actual head itself. So I have taped off every single possible area where shavings could go into. So I need to take about, what is that, about 1/8, a little bit more than 1/8 inch off of material a bit further down. So this coil pack basically goes in line with the spark plug. When you do that, it doesn't fit in this recess here, so I need to cut some more material out from the head. That way I can fit this coil pack in there and run the brackets that will retain the actual coil pack itself. And this coil pack, I guess this LS truck coil conversion kit, is by KMP. Like I said, this puts the coil pack on top of the spark plug, and it lets you run the spark plug cover, or the coil pack cover for the 1J, so you can keep that original look going rather than running plug wires and all that stuff. So here's the progress so far on one side. Basically, once I'm done with this lower half, I'm going to flip it over and do the other side, and that should give me enough clearance for the coil packs to go in. If you haven't worked with aluminum or trying to grind aluminum away, this is the tool that I'm using. It's a very aggressive tooth, and you can see the aluminum is stuck onto the actual tips. So what you need to do is consistently lubricate the surface while you're cutting it, or at least spray it every once in a while with WD-40 or any sort of lubricating spray, so the aluminum doesn't chunk up on here and it'll allow it to keep on cutting. So I'm going to finish this side, flip it over, do the other side, and I'll show you guys how the coil packs go installed. Okay, so this is a mock-up of how the coil packs go on the cylinder head. I'm taking apart the valve train now, and I'm pretty much just gonna keep the valve train here while I send the head out. All I'm gonna get done on this cylinder head is basically just get it decked on the bottom. Everything else is okay. So we're gonna go drop off the cylinder head today and drop off my radiator and fan shroud over to Harvey at Hutch's Welding. Basically, I want him to make some mounting tabs so I can mount the fan shroud to the radiator itself, and add some studs on the bottom half so I can mount it to the chassis. And that way I'll have something to fix off the top here. So if you guys remember, I was talking about adding some nozzles to the front of the radiator to basically add evaporative cooling. So this is it getting started. This lower nozzle is going to be the end. It's going to go all the way around. It's going to go from the bottom of the radiator spraying up. It's all going to spray in across the top, and then I'm going to go to a tank over here somewhere. I think just ambient temperature water will be enough to cool the radiator down, especially with the airflow going through it. So yeah, now to pull this out, and I'm going to send it over to Harvey. So heads dropped off at the machine shop, and the radiator is over at Harvey's shop now. So all that I have left to do here at the garage is basically I'm going to remove the steering rack. So on the steering rack, I'm going to change the seals, and I'm going to change the hard lines to the steel braided lines from ISR. And then I'm basically just going to go and revise the engine bay in the next video. So yeah, it's looking pretty good. We're making some progress. I'm trying to sell a couple of parts so I can put it towards the pistons. So when I dropped by the machine shop earlier to drop off the cylinder head, they told me that the block actually cleaned up with 20 thousandths. So that's good news. That means that I'll just be able to run a piston that is 20 thousandths over. What else do we need? That should be it. You know, once everything comes in, I can put everything together, and I'll do an assembly video for that, putting it back in the car, running the car, and all that good stuff. So for this video, I'm going to take the steering rack off and clean it up, and then I'll assemble it on the next video while I do all the wiring that I'm going to run for the fans. So stay tuned for all that good stuff.